Good morning. I'm Julie Kay here in the Live Impact Studio. 9 a.m. right off the top, a lot going on your Friday. Of course, this week has been really plagued with news reports about Border Patrol, whether they are staying, whether they're leaving. That is really the biggest conflict we're seeing right now. It's not just those arrests, but how long is this going to continue? And so we want to get straight to our lead story. We've got Richard Devane live in East Charlotte, who's been following this for us. Now, Richard, as I mentioned, some conflicting reports here about what is next for Border Patrol. What is the background here and what's the latest on what we're hearing?
Yeah, the latest is we really don't know, Julie. We were trying to figure that out because local authorities are saying one thing, Fed's saying something totally different, and that's leaving a lot of folks, especially folks here in the east side where there is a large immigrant population, scratching their heads and wondering. Certain businesses are open, but there's still no people coming to them. Kids are, as we checked in the last few minutes, there's still a lot of kids who are not attending classes today. All of this because no one knows what's happening here. There have been conflicting reports which continue to swirl about the status of that immigration enforcement surge. Local authorities, including our sheriff, announced that the federal operation dubbed Operation Charlotte's Web had ended. Sheriff McFadden also says that officials informed his office that the mission was over and that no more agents from U.S. Customs and Border Protection would be operating in the area. But then the Department of Homeland Security says that the operation is not over and is not ending anytime soon. Now, since it began since last weekend, the enforcement campaign has led to approximately 370 arrests here in the Charlotte region. Now, local officials are telling us that the uncertainty is causing, as you can well imagine, anxiousness amongst community members, especially these immigrant families who live, work in this area, and that the schools and businesses are all feeling the ripple effects.
This is not done. They may have left Charlotte, they still in North Carolina. If they're not in North Carolina, they still in our country. We cannot be this type of society. What makes us different than any country that we run away from?
Yeah, and in just a few hours, there'll be another news conference, this one held by a number of organizations. It'll be held at Manolo's Bakery, the site of a lot of where there has been information coming out, kind of gauging the community's feel at this time. Of course, everyone wanting to know when this situation will end. and when folks who live in these communities can go back to living their lives right out here. Of course, we get any more information, we'll alert you always in all of our things. It'll be in your hand, in our mobile app, and any other app, any other informational platforms that we have as well. We're right here in East Charlotte. Julie, we'll send it back to you.
Richard, I know a lot of questions still remain, so we appreciate you following this for us. Thank you. All right, we're going to turn now to a look at our forecast. Of course, Thanksgiving coming up. People have a lot of questions. What are we going to do? Chris is here to answer all of your burning questions. Now, Chris, I heard maybe a little bit of rain. What's the latest on that situation?
Yeah, so we have rain tonight and tomorrow, rain before the holiday, and then it looks like we should be dry for Thanksgiving. I think the bigger story is the record-breaking high, followed by the more January-like highs coming by the back end of the forecast. But let's start with the now. Right now, we still have a lot of really dense fog across the area. Visibility's down to still a 0 around Statesville, same thing in Albemarle. Things are starting to improve across York County that for about 3 hours was around a quarter-mile visibility. So things are improving there. You can also see better through our 2 cameras in Monroe that you have just to the left of your screen. Ooh. And all in all, it has just been kind of a cloudy and dreary day overall. 59 degrees. Temperatures really haven't moved much, only 1 degree over the last 5 hours. 58 degrees around the Hickory area, and it's 55 in Boone. This is how you know that cloud cover is controlling our temperatures. When you're only within about a 5-degree temperature frame from Boone to Charlotte, that means that cloud cover is really blanketing the area. We have the lower 60s down towards the south as well. Sharon, you're at 63 degrees. Highs today, I think we're going to reach the lower to the mid 70s. Now, I think overall it is going to be an overcast day, and you will have a few bright spots here and there. But if you look really closely, so this is our Dallas camera. That is 1,500 feet, technically 1,450 feet up in the atmosphere. But you are seeing a little bit of blue sky up there. But the problem is just a little bit. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. So the problem is that is still a low to mid-level cloud deck, seeing a little bit of sunshine. We have really thick clouds at the surface. This is happening through multiple layers of the atmosphere. So I'm not really optimistic that we're going to see a ton of sunshine today. I think it does get a little bit brighter later on in the afternoon. Select few of us at times maybe have a little pocket that we see a little bit more blue sky, but I don't want really people to get excited like we're going to see a load of sunshine. Just keep that in mind. Our warm front officially drifted through this morning. That's what brought us the rain. We will have a chance for maybe a little bit of mist and drizzle on and off throughout the day. There are some signs of some breaks to the west, but eventually this system is going to lead to our next rain chance. But I want to get right to the interesting stats that are happening for this time of year. Over the last 10 days, it's felt more like October, and that's exactly what we're doing right now. But it was last Tuesday that we dropped to 48 degrees. That's more in the January threshold. Now, if you look over the next 10 days, we're back to 79. This would be the third time we've done it in the last week, but then we are borderline November, October-like early next week, and then we're right back to January-like weather.
No.
I know. It's boo-worthy for sure. But the problem with this brings us to November. The end of November actually has an average high of 58 degrees. So that means we're getting to the point that the 50s become the more popular zone. That's why how rare these 70s really are, because the records over the next 3 days, including today, are 78, 76, and 78. So for you to reach this temperature range, it's actually more record-breaking than the norm in the lower 60s. Saturday looks to be a smash. We have 79, 76 is the record. We start with a chance for a thunderstorm in the morning, but it's going to be a nice warm up because of that sunshine. Very similar to what we had last Sunday, where we hit 79 and we did have a cloudier start. One interesting stat, I can always find a stat no matter what the forecast is. For the back half of November, I looked specifically from the 16th to the 30th, so the second half or 15 days. The most 78 plus degree highs that we've had in Charlotte history, dating back to the late 1800s, was 4, and that was back in 1942, and that's where most of the records have been over the last few days. Well, we've already done 2, and we're set to do at least 3. And if you specifically just put in the number 79, we've never hit 79 plus 3 times in the second half of November. So it's a very historic run that we're on, and not only record-breaking, but just doing it this many times for the second half of the month. Now, looking at the extended forecast for our lows, we are expecting to be around freezing yet again, where typically during the month of November, we usually drop to the freezing point or below at least 5 times per year. We've done it 2 times, so we are going to make up for lost time for the last 2 days of the year and of the month, and then heading into the last month of the year, you're seeing the temperatures eventually starting to rebound and get back to normal. As far as our next rain chances go, we have a little bit of a disturbance that's rolling through later on today, and then eventually we could see the end of it all by your Saturday morning, and then there's a second coming of some rain heading into your Tuesday and Wednesday time frame. So here's our future cast. What you're actually looking at right here is the chance for thunderstorms. So the Storm Prediction Center will put out the severe threats, but also if there's just enough instability to fire up some thunder and lightning. And we actually have that as a possibility across the area. So I think mainly between about 2 and 8 o'clock, you're going to see some passing showers and storms. Could have some widespread heavier downpours at times. And then heading into the afternoon, we start to clear things out ever so slightly. Slightest chance for an isolated storm during the middle of the day, but most likely it's in the morning, and then we're done. Then we're dry for a couple of days, and then you have more of a scattered rain that starts to roll in Tuesday into Wednesday. So that opens up the second part that I really wanted to talk about, what Thanksgiving travel is going to look like. Because our travel circle, this is a 300-mile radius around Charlotte, shows the only hindrance for any travel. Say if you leave Sunday, you're good. Monday, you're fine. But once you get to Tuesday morning, we're starting to see rain enter the circle in the western zones around Tennessee. So as you can see, widespread rain in Tennessee starting on Tuesday morning. It affects the Charlotte area really late afternoon heading into the evening. So if you're doing any travel on Tuesday, which is one of the busier travel days, and Wednesday, you could have some wet roads. Nothing that's, I think, really going to be a big hazard or anything. And then by Wednesday morning, it's starting to get out of here, still affecting the eastern side of the Carolinas. And then by Thursday, Thanksgiving, we're good to go. Now, one thing that's changed, looking at the long-range models, I don't see a lot of activity outside of that. So if you're heading home immediately on Friday, Saturday, as of right now, there's no other systems. Now, of course, that can change pretty rapidly, but all in all, it's looking pretty good. So right now, our Thanksgiving way too early forecast, we have a high of 58 degrees, partly cloudy skies, no rain to worry about. And compared to the last 5 Thanksgivings, it was much warmer last year, but the year before, 59. And it's nowhere near 2020s where we were in the lower 70s. And for the weekend, this is the scary part. I already showed you a version of it, but sometimes seeing it with some turkeys will really engrave it for you. Lower 50s for highs, Black Friday, Small Business Saturday, and sitting on your derriere Sunday.
Woo! Oh, that's my favorite one, sitting on your derriere
Yeah,
Sunday.
I love that too. Yeah, and I can't wait for my turkey nap coming up.
One of my favorite times of year is just when y'all bring out the fun holiday weather graphics. So
me too,
I
yeah.
really enjoy the turkeys.
I'll use them as much as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that's all good to know. Definitely something people will pay attention to. My family's driving from Cincinnati to Asheville on Wednesday, so right through the rain, but you said not too bad of travel impact.
Is your family from Cincinnati?
They live there now, yes.
Oh, they live now? Okay. Yeah, I worked in the Dayton market for a little bit, so I frequented
So you're familiar.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with the alternative Queen City.
And you know what? As I've lived here, I have accepted that fact that they are the alternative. Have you tried the Cincinnati chili?
Yes. I don't know if I want to get myself in trouble.
Fair enough. All right, that's called
with
the
the
tease.
spaghetti.
Yeah, with the spaghetti, the 3 ways. If you're not familiar with this, Ohioans love to have, it's either Gold Star or Skyline. It's a big controversial issue that's worse than Ohio State and Michigan fans, I feel.
Very aggressive, yes.
But Skyline, specifically, they actually put cocoa in their chili, so it is very unique. The 3-way is spaghetti, cheese, an abundance of cheese, and chili.
Like you can't see anything else. There's so much shredded cheese on top that it's just covered.
I'll try it.
Thank you, Carly.
No,
I'm an adventurous eater.
I get the Coney dogs. That's
that's a good one.
That's more my fan. Actually, whenever we have chili here, we usually do it across 3 days. We'll have chili one day, we'll have Coney dogs the next, then we'll have 3 ways the day after that.
There you
And
go.
the 4-way is also a thing where they add onions, and I think there's a 5-way, and I don't know what that does.
Maybe that's like extra. I don't know.
There's something mysterious at that point. I haven't been bold enough.
It's just surprise.
It
It's
is.
the 5th ingredient.
It is a surprise.
It's dealer's choice.
Which sometimes is great. Other times, hold your breath.
We're gonna Google what the 5th ingredient is, and we'll be
Yes.
back in about 2 minutes. But Chris, thank you so much.
Always a pleasure.
All right, we'll be back. Welcome back, 9:15 on your clock on this Friday morning. As I mentioned earlier, lots going on in the way of local news, making national impacts, of course, with Border Patrol being in Charlotte and having multiple operations here throughout the area, plus that question of whether or not they are going to leave and move on to the next city, which is expected to be New Orleans. So we're hoping to get some more clarity on that as we head through Live Impact News today over the next few hours, and we'll keep coming back to that as we get more information. But we want to get now to another local headline. It is CMPD Chief Johnny Jennings. He is, of course, preparing to retire. We've already announced the new chief name who will be taking over, and this is his last couple weeks looking back on his legacy at CMPD and what he hopes coming next. So Eugene actually got a chance to sit down with him yesterday and discuss all of those hot topics. So here's that interview.
Become the police chief. What were your goals? What were your own personal goals? And what was the landscape of Charlotte as you take over the police department?
Wow, that was a quick turnaround. So when I was announced as the police chief, it was one thought process that I had, because we've had some great police chiefs before me. And my thought process was, how do I continue doing the great work that they've done and continue some of the platforms that they've already built? Well, then when we started looking at the civil unrest and George Floyd, all of the reactions to that, I had to take a step back and say, we have to do something different. And I can't just get up and talk about the things that we've been doing, that how I'm going to continue doing them. So I had to really change my focus on what we're going to look like as a law enforcement agency, and that was an eye-opening experience for me.
That's what I would imagine. It becomes an eye-opening experience for you, because as you get in, there's a lot of things that's going to happen in it that you don't expect, that you have to go ahead and plan for.
Yeah, and really it was, when it started, I said, oh, what have I gotten myself into here? Because it was really a scary moment for not just me, but the profession across the entire country, all major city chiefs. And it wasn't until I had a major city chiefs meeting, and I talked to my colleagues from across the country, and to see that we were all dealing with about the same thing. It was a broken record going around the room talking about some of the challenges and things that you're dealing with. And that was really something that got me to where I said, okay, I'm not in this alone, and we can certainly get through it, and you have people that you can talk to. So that was a huge deal for me.
So now, as you take over, there's going to be highs, there's going to be lows, there's going to be some in-betweens. All right, so let's start with maybe some of the challenges that you face. What were some of the major challenges that really were going to be extremely challenging?
Obviously the start of it in 2020, there were a lot of questions about law enforcement and the direction of law enforcement. It was a huge challenge, but I also accepted that, and I feel like I wanted to thrive on those challenges, because I often was told this is the worst time to be the police chief. I said, no, it's the best time to be the police chief, because now you can come in and start with a clean slate and build from that point and make it even better and come out stronger on the other side. And then, obviously there's some, then dealing with COVID on top of that, having to change the way you reach out to the community, change the way you communicate internally, change the way our officers respond to different calls for service and with the community. That was a huge challenge. But I think nothing was more challenging than April 29th of 2024, when we lost 4 brave officers that were out doing their job, and one being CMPD Joshua Iyer. That was something that was really difficult to get through, and but I couldn't be more proud of our agency and the response. We continued to keep our community safe during the toughest time in law enforcement history in North Carolina. So that was really a tragic event that we continued to do what we needed to do to keep our community safe.
Those are some of the things that keep you up at night? Because when I think about police chief, I think of someone who's a head coach, someone who's like a father figure, who's going to go ahead and take care of the fold here and have to look out for everything. So are those some of the tragedies that keep you up at night?
Oh yeah, you never want to get that phone call, and when you get the phone goes off all night anyway, but with other incidents happening. But when you get that phone call and you hear from a deputy chief or another command staff member who calls you and says we've lost someone, it is awful, and it's you bear responsibility for that. You feel like, what did I do what could I have done to make this not happen? And there's a little bit of blame that you put on yourself, knowing that, knowing that you can't put that on yourself, but you do because you're the leader of this organization. And same thing when I got to call Mia Goodwin when she was in the tragic accident on the interstate. She lost her life, and to have to endure those types of incidents are just heartbreaking, and that these are officers that put their life on the line every single day. They have families, they have their brothers, sisters, mothers, cousins. I mean, it's just to see that they lose their lives way too early. It's difficult to absorb that as a police chief.
Does protocol and the way that you go ahead and try to take care of that in the future of maybe making changes, does that also enter your mind as now the police chief that, okay, we have to go ahead and rework things?
Yeah, when you have any incident that is that dramatic or sticks out that much, you have to learn from that. And if you don't learn from that, you're just idling yourself through a career, and you can't do that. So when there were a lot of changes that we've had to look at when we lose an officer or when you have a critical incident at all. You go back and you debrief and you say, what can we do better? Where could we have possibly had the outcome of this change? And that's how you continue to improve as an agency, and that's not just in the police world. I think that's in everyday world. When you have things that don't go your way, always need to look back and say, what could we have done better?
So what are some of the misconceptions that people don't know about you, as they just see you as a chief and they see maybe that you come up behind the scene or you got the police officers, but they don't know what you do? What are some of the misconceptions, and what would you like them to know about you?
Wow, people, you kind of forget that you are human, right? And so being the police chief is not who I am. Being a police chief is what I do. And so there are things outside of policing that really keep me going. And this. I'll go out and play some golf. I'll go out and fishing is probably my number one. I love going out and just fishing and getting my mind off of things. Exercise that keeps your mind clear. But at the same time, my whole philosophy is we can't take ourselves too serious. I think there's too many times in this world that we're so divisive and that we're so disrespectful towards other people, and I've seen way too much of that in this career. But at the same time, we look at when we come to our meetings and we talk about how we're going to continue to keep our community safe, but we're also going to laugh, we're going to joke, and we're going to make sure that work is not a bad place to be, but at the same time know what our mission is and know what we have to accomplish, and how huge of a burden it is that community safety lies on our shoulders as a law enforcement agency.
Chief.
All right, we're going to break into this interview for a moment and come back out to it later. But right now, we're going to take a quick break and then get to Capitol Hill with some live events. Stick with us. Welcome back. Approaching 9:30 here in the Live Impact studio. We want to get out to Capitol Hill with a live event. Multiple representatives, including Representative Moulton from Massachusetts, are speaking about a new piece of legislation they say will prohibit funding for operations against Venezuela. So let's take a listen in.
Not doing the right thing up front. Just like there are a lot of people who regret not asking the tough questions and not taking the right vote when a prior president asked us to go to war in Iraq. Thank you all very much.
Well, naturally, we joined that right as it was ending. So we're going to find out more information about that later. And I'm sure we're going to get more information when that is actually formally proposed on the House floor. Speaking of, House floor is in session right now. Multiple representatives speaking up about different issues. So lots going on at Capitol Hill in general with, of course, the residual impacts of the government shutdown, holidays coming up, holiday travel. Also, of course, the Epstein files. Trump signing that bill that will release the Epstein files, and we're hoping to get more information and clarity on when that will actually happen. So let's take a listen in here and see if we get anything interesting off the House floor.
Yet in the Senate, 14 times, Senate Democrats denied funding to air traffic control, denied funding to farm assistance, denied funding for all the federal programs, inconveniencing states, hurting families, hurting federal workers. And perhaps unlike some, I certainly gave up my pay for those 42 days by direction to this House that I was not going to be paid personally as a member of Congress while we see this kind of lack of responsibility out of the Senate. But today we're talking about here in the most vigorous democracy in the land, in our 250th year, we're talking about rejecting socialism that punishes freedom, punishes individual action, tears families apart. That's what we're here to talk about. We're not here to rattle down about current events. So, the gentlewoman from Florida, Congresswoman Salazar leads our Western Hemisphere subcommittee in the House Foreign Relations Committee. And what better person, Mr. Speaker, to have this responsibility? Born in Little Havana in Miami, daughter of Cuban exiles, let her tell you how cushy life was under Castro's communist socialist dictatorship. I yield the gentlewoman 5 minutes.
From Florida is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you. Honorable gentleman from Arkansas, the distinguished French Hill, Chairman of the Finance Services Committee, I thank you very much. It's a pleasure for me to be serving with you in your committee. And I'm just going, before I start, before I explain to this body why I'm introducing this resolution. When I was a journalist covering stories for Univision Network, I interviewed many people who had lost their legs or their brothers or sisters in the middle of the ocean trying to get to Miami, and the sharks ate them up. Some of them were eaten up alive, others lost legs, and they made it to Florida. And I was able, as a journalist, to interview them and see the horrors of what they had to go through because they were escaping the paradise called socialism. So I'm just going to start with that, and I'm going to finish maybe with another anecdote. But the reason why we're introducing this resolution is to condemn the horrors of socialism, and I'm presenting just the facts. And I invite my colleagues on the other side to vote to condemn this nefarious ideology. This has nothing to do with political parties. This is not a Democratic issue. This is not a Republican issue. This is a moral vote against an ideology that has destroyed millions and millions of families. Many of them, I serve those families in District Number 27, the heart of the city of Miami, the heart of the Cuban exile community, and now the Venezuelan community, and murdered more than 100 million lives, besides crushing hundreds of thousands of other families and individuals. Unfortunately, socialism and Marxism crushes the human soul. And it's not just my community in Miami. millions of Cubans who had to flee. And it's the rest of the hemisphere and the rest of the world. Just look at Russia, look at North Korea, look at Iran. And what a coincidence that today President Trump is receiving in the White House the mayor-elect, Mr. Mondani, from the city of New York or from New York City. And I salute the president for receiving Mr. Mondani because he won fair and square, and that's the way democracy works. But let me just tell you something, knowing very well how Fidel works and how Hugo Chavez works and how socialism works, that I just want to put this into perspective. If it were to be the other way around, and Trump would have been the mayor-elect, and Mondani were to be the president of the United States, I assure you that there's no way that Mondani is going to receive Trump at the White House, period. And how do I know that? Because I know exactly how they operate. Democracy is just a tool to get to power, period. People who love freedom were just useful fools to be used in order to get to the business of power, which is all socialist, communist, whatever you want to call it. If it's not democracy and freedom and free market economy, it's just a bad ideology. And unfortunately, that's what they do to achieve power. They use us. Just look at Venezuela. Oh my God, Venezuela, it's in the news, right? Everyone is talking about Venezuela. Oh my God, the Caribbean. Well, let me just give you the facts. Maria Corina Machado, who is the legitimate president of Venezuela, who won 80-20 after President Biden gave the opportunity, to Maduro to do fair and square election and transparent elections, right? 2 years ago, Maduro signs a document by the name of the Barbados Agreement. And he agrees to the Biden administration and to Juan Gonzalez, who used to be the National Security Advisor at the time for Latin America, that he was going to leave if he did not win the elections. And he signed that document with the Biden administration. And what did he do? He just spit on Biden's face. Because we believed that, oh my God, Biden, look what he's doing. It's good. It's a good idea. Give the opportunity to Maduro to just create and to conduct free and fair and transparent elections with international observers. And he was going to go. Look where he's at now. Maduro is not only the head of the Suns cartel, one of the most important drug trafficking cartels in the world. He was indicted in 2020 by a federal grand jury in this country for being one of the major drug traffickers in the world. Not only that, he is now on the transnational criminal organization. Not only that, he is the head of the Suns cartel. And you tell me, Chairman, if I can.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to yield the gentlewoman an additional minute.
The lady from Florida is recognized for 1 minute.
So, I mean, as you can see, I can speak until tomorrow about socialism, and the problem is that Venezuela is the perfect example, and the Venezuelans would make fun of the Cubans 25 years ago, saying that it was impossible for that to happen in Venezuela. They had the largest reserves of oil in the world. They were a very strong democracy. They were not an island. It was impossible. They had such a strong economy. Look right now, the average Venezuelan weighs 15 pounds less because of lack of food. And look, the Trump administration has to come and rescue them from what they have turned that country into. So we're at a crossroads in this country. Young Americans, 70% believe that socialism is good. 1 in 3 believe that government should control major industries. 1 in 4 says that we should abolish private property. It is my duty as a representative, District Number 27, the heart of the Cuban exile community, to tell this body it's time to denounce socialism in this country, because just like it happened to the Venezuelans, it could happen to the Americans. I yield back.
I reserve, Speaker.
The lady from Florida reserves. The gentleman from, or yields, excuse me. The gentleman from Arkansas reserves. The gentlelady.
Thank you very much. For those who are expecting their Social Security checks this month, turn them down if you think that's socialism. I yield 3 minutes to the gentleman from Connecticut, Mr. Himes, who is also the ranking member of the Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence.
Thank you.
The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you very much, Mrs. Waters. Although I must say I'm a little confused. I'm not going to frame this as a parliamentary inquiry, but I'm very, very confused. We've just gotten back from a 2-month paid vacation, in which federal employees didn't get paid, in which we started a war without congressional approval, in which electricity prices went up for 70 million Americans, in which inflation is rocking along at 3.5%. So I thought we were going to be in this chamber talking about affordability. By the way, my friends on the Republican side just got shellacked in an election, from C to signing she, where the word is affordability. They got shellacked on affordability. And what did we do this week? Congressman Norman, a guy who put a .38 Smith & Wesson on the table when he met with Mothers Demand Action on gun safety, a man who called for martial law to stop the peaceful transfer of power, to stop Joe Biden from becoming president, he decided that Stacey Plaskett should no longer be on the Intelligence Committee. We spent half a day on that. Congresswoman Mace, who is Congresswoman Mace, decided that Corey Mills should no longer be on committees, and apparently we may do another one. So I prepared a speech on affordability. Lots of good ideas on how to make stuff cheaper. It says it right there. Lots of good ideas on how to make stuff cheaper. Good idea number 1, get rid of tariffs, which are a tax on bananas, coffee, vegetables, pasta sauce, pasta, television, automobiles, burgundy, fine French claret for my Republican friends over there. Number 2, stop canceling generation projects which will make electricity cheaper. That was my speech. But instead, we're here to denounce the horrors of socialism. Okay, not what I was prepared to talk about. If I were prepared to talk about it, I would point out, I guess, 2 things. Number 1, if you've ever cracked a book or talked to somebody, you would know that socialism is different than communism. And there have been socialist countries, and the chairman and I both come out of a highly capitalist industry, banking. There are socialist countries that have exhibited horrors like Denmark, like Finland, any number of other socialist countries. Communism, and in fact, if this resolution said communism, I suspect we wouldn't even have to debate it, because who likes communism? Anyway, I would make that point if I were interested in having this debate. Or I might point out, and I welcome the Republican majority in finally cotton on to the fact that we are living in the most socialist administration in 2.5 centuries. What's the definition of socialism? Again, if you crack a book, you'll see that it is state control over the means of production. This president has taken a 10% stake in Intel, a 15% stake in MP Materials, a 10% stake in Lithium America, 10% stake in Trilogy Metals, and we have a golden share in U.S. Steel. State control of the means of production. Madam Ranking Member, may I have one more minute?
I yield additional minute to the gentleman.
The gentleman from Connecticut is recognized for an additional minute.
So if the definition of socialism is political control over the means of production, welcome to the great socialist state of the United States of America. The other definition, by the way, has to do with command and control. Those are words we remember from the communist era. Command and control. Well, holy smokes, there is not a media company, there is not a law firm, there is not a university that has not been subject to the command and control of the Oval Office. The president has demanded money. Looks a little like extortion to me, but in order to avoid making a personality, let's just call it dividends. The president has demanded dividends from any number of companies. This is command and control. So I'm not actually interested in having that debate because I think we would all agree on much of this stuff, including the fact that we are now living in one of the most socialist countries on the planet. But what I really want to do is talk about affordability, which is what the American people care about. And until we're prepared to debate affordability, I yield back. I yield back.
The gentleman from Connecticut yields back. The gentlelady from California reserves. Members are reminded to refrain from engaging in personalities toward the president. The gentleman from Arkansas is recognized.
I thank the Speaker. I want to yield 2 minutes to the gentlewoman from California who grew up, Mr. Speaker, in Korea, and as a young girl immigrated here to the United States of America. She knows the truth of post-war Korea and how challenging it was, and compared the Korea of her childhood to the Korea of today. Democracy, freedom, vigorous democracy, amazingly vigorous democracy in Korea today. But Ms. Kim is now the chairwoman of our Asia Pacific Subcommittee on Foreign Affairs. What a transition and what a great voice to condemn socialism. I yield 2 minutes to the gentlewoman from California.
Lady from California is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman. It's such an honor to stand here to strongly support the House Concurrent Resolution 9. As a Korean American who grew up in the aftermath of the Korean War, I have witnessed the horrors of socialism firsthand. I always say, if you want to see the difference between socialism and freedom, just look at the Korean Peninsula at night. South Korea shines with opportunity. North Korea is trapped in darkness. Time and time again throughout history, socialism has led to disaster, starvation, imprisonment, and the death of over 100 million people worldwide. My own family lived those horrors. My mother-in-law risked her life crossing the DMZ lines multiple times to rescue loved ones from the North Korean regime. To this day, tens of thousands of Korean families remain separated by a system that tears apart communities and crushes basic human dignity. Now more than ever, as socialist ideas gain traction here at home, and as our nation's largest city and financial capital has elected not just a socialist, but a communist as mayor, we must firmly demand our capitalist free market system which empowers Americans of all backgrounds to achieve freedom, opportunity, and prosperity. I know what America represents because I remember my first glimpse of freedom as a young girl, looking up wide-eyed as U.S. soldiers tossed candy from their trucks. In the communities that I lived, today, as one of the first Korean-American women to serve in Congress,
Lady's time
that
has
freedom
expired.
tastes just as sweet.
Gentlelady's time has expired.
I yield the gentlewoman 30 seconds.
Stories like these.
All right, definitely a lot going on the House floor today, of course, discussing all sorts of the hot topics, including Social Security. We did pass, of course, a bill to end the government shutdown, a stopgap funding bill, but that discussion of health care and funding is going to come back up in January. So definitely something we'll be paying close attention to over the next couple months. We're going to take another quick break, but we'll be right back. Welcome back to Live Impact News, 9:47 on your clock. We do want to make you aware that this is 3 years as of today since missing Cornelius girl Madalina Kojikari went missing when she was last seen in public. Now, this is the last known footage that we have of her, the 11-year-old. Surveillance video of her getting off her school bus around 5 p.m. November 21st of 2022. Now, it took her parents 3 weeks to report her missing. For 3 years now, though, the Cornelius community has come together praying for her to be found. This video just really heartbreaking to see, knowing how long it's been since this happened and since she was last seen. The case surrounding her disappearance has taken dozens of twists and turns at this point. Our team has been following every step of the way, hoping to get some more information. So coming up tonight on WCNC Plus here at 9, we have a special dedicated to this investigation.
A bright 11-year-old with an infectious smile who disappeared after getting off her school bus in Cornelius in 2022.
From November the 22nd to December the 15th, 23 days went by where he didn't know the location of Madalina Kojikari.
Conflicting stories from her mother and stepfather, a boarded-up bedroom, fires in the backyard of her home, secret recordings, and trips out of state.
Bottom line is she's a suspect in the disappearance of her own daughter.
Everyone's still asking, where is Madalina?
Our goal is to find Madalina, and we're not going to stop until we do.
The Search for Madalina, streaming on WCNC Plus. Download on your TV and watch for free.
Carlene and I just discussing this case kind of during that package as it aired. Lots of twists and turns, as I said, a very complicated case.
It's no stretch to say, like, I mean, I wouldn't say it's exhausting. It's complicated.
Deeply.
It's so many twists and turns. I feel like, each one more complicated than the last. And it leads to more questions instead of answers, you know, so.
And that's why it's still, at this point, unsolved.
Yes.
So hoping to get some more information. Of course, things like this are moments to look back and really, you know, put pressure on, you know, the system to try and find as much as they can. But I know everyone is doing their best at this point. It's very sad case, very complicated case. We're going to get back out, though, to the House floor. This is happening live. They're discussing all sorts of things right now, but what we're most interested in is Social Security, including health care, as that is the debate that led to that months-long shutdown just a little bit ago and will lead to potentially another conflict coming up in January as they have to rediscuss funding.
The Community Development Financial Institutions Fund that was dedicated to helping rural and struggling communities. So instead of debating this useless resolution, we should be working to reverse the Trump administration's reckless economic policies that are hurting the American people. Does anyone want to know why Republicans are so scared of the mayor of New York? Because he wants to lower grocery bills, transportation costs, and housing costs. Republicans know that Trump's policies are the reason costs are so high. Mr. Speaker and members, the evidence and the facts are right before us about what's happening with this economy. The President of the United States refuses to accept the facts, and he keeps going supporting these tariffs. He does not understand how it all works. We're in danger of him because him, the President, and the Republican Party simply want to be in control. They love power. The President loves Putin. The President likes Kim Jong-un. He likes having a parade with all of the military to show that he's in control. And so he's coming up with policies that put him with more power and more control, and he's ignoring the harm that he's doing to this country. And I want to tell all of the members, it is not only about the harm that is coming to urban communities. Those rural communities that are losing their hospitals, don't have health care, and have hungry families who have voted for him are now understanding, and they are demonstrating that it has been buyer's remorse. And when the next election comes, we're going to see what happens. With that, I reserve the balance of my time.
Lady from California reserves. The gentleman from Arkansas is recognized.
I thank the Speaker. Well, the policies that are perhaps being considered in New York, the people of New York their voices have been heard, they've spoken. But when you think about having government-controlled grocery stores instead of relying on entrepreneurial immigrant families, Korean families with the beautiful bodegas and flower shops around the city, that somehow they're doing an inadequate job, and the mayor proposes that the government step into that business, run grocery stores, for example. He proposes even more difficult rent controls that have already driven down the number of units available in the city of New York, which is already suffering from a huge housing shortage and a huge price disadvantage for the thousands of people who want to work in the city. This is contrary to economic choice, and that's another reason why we're here on this House floor, to note that an open democratic market capitalist system offers choice, and the freedom to choose is of critical value. That is limited under socialism, in addition to the atrocities. Nobel Prize winner Friedrich Hayek, one of my favorite economists, books I read as a young man, The Road to Serfdom, Constitution of Liberty. It's a man who lived under socialism, lived through the communist regimes of Stalin in Eastern Europe, of Nazi Germany. He talked about the road to serfdom. Well, you can think of some of these policies, Mr. Speaker, potentially as the scenic route to socialism. So somebody who understands market capitalism, constitutional republic like no other member, I want to yield 2 minutes to the gentleman from California, Mr. McClintock, who chairs the Immigration Subcommittee for House Judiciary. Mr. McClintock.
Gentleman from California is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's often said that capitalism is selfishness and socialism is sharing. But that's exactly backwards. The only way to succeed in a capitalist society is to figure out what somebody else needs and how to get it for them better than they can get it for themselves. It might be mowing their lawn, it might be doing brain surgery on their child, but you have to help your neighbor somehow. It's true, if you take $1 from Peter and give it to Paul, Paul's $1 richer and Peter is $1 poorer. But what you've really done is to take from both of them $1's worth of incentive to help each other. Peter no longer has a reason to help Paul because he no longer benefits. And Paul has no reason to help Peter because he no longer needs to. Socialism thus dissolves the natural bonds that hold a society together and lead each of us to help one another. Capitalism is voluntary. Peter and Paul help each other because it's in their mutual interest to do so. Socialism is compulsion. You've got to take what one has earned from helping others and give it to someone who has not. As Lincoln said, it's the same spirit that says, you work and toil and make bread, and I will eat it. Slavery and socialism both spring from that same rotten principle. Many societies have succumbed to the siren song of a benevolent, all-powerful government, only to awaken one morning to find the benevolence is gone and the all-powerful government is still there. Let that not be the epitaph of the United States of America. The history of human society can be summed up in just 4 words. Freedom works, socialism sucks. Yield back.
Gentleman yields back. The gentleman from Arkansas is reserves. The lady from California is recognized.
Right. The gentleman said something about what was happening in New York with the mayor, and he mentioned, you know, government-owned grocery stores. Well, first of all, you won't admit that groceries are too high and that families cannot afford the cost of eggs and basic good food to have great nutrition for their families. By the way, let me remind you of something. You know, my then husband was stationed at Camp Carson in Colorado. Guess where we got our food? We got our food from grocery-owned commissaries. The best prices that I've ever realized. We had great nutrition. They absolutely supported the families, and they were run by whom? They were run by the government. And so I would love the idea of seeing what we can do to reduce the cost of groceries. We already have them in the commissaries, and they have price controls, and they are heavily subsidized. Now, let me ask the question, does this mean that we should eliminate them because that's socialism, or because the commissaries provide food that is affordable at the bases all over America and the world? Fire departments, police departments, schools, hospitals. Is this socialism? I raise the question, and instead of you taking this time to try and talk about we were the cause of the shutdown when you know you were, don't deflect it. Come on, let's talk about socialism. Let's talk about the commissaries. Let's talk about your Social Security. Let's talk about the PPP program that some of you got money from your government to put into your businesses. Let's talk about socialism and what you are really trying to deflect from what is wrong with this administration and what is wrong with the economic policies of this administration. Come on, let's talk about it. I reserve the balance of my time.
Members are reminded to address.
All right, it's approaching 10 o'clock here, so we're going to take another break. We'll be back at the top of the hour. All right, welcome back to Live Impact News 10:01 here. I'm Julie Kay with some fun news finally out of D.C. This is the Capitol Christmas tree. She has arrived. She is nicknamed, get this, Carlene, Silver Bell.
Silver Bell.
Silver Bell. What
Look
a fun
at
name.
I mean, she's a big one. I know when the camera zooms out, you'll see. I'm like, this is a This is a big truck carrying this tree.
They are not messing around.
No, they did not mess
They
around.
said we need some holiday
we need the
cheer
biggest tree
at the U.S.
in the
Capitol.
world.
Each year they do this. This is not uncommon, but Jesus, a massive,
Right?
massive tree. My gosh. But they pull it from one of the national parks. Very cool. This tree is the first ever from Nevada's, oh no, I can't say it. Humboldt. I'm not going to say it, guys.
Okay.
It's from Nevada.
Sure.
It's from Nevada. 53-foot red fir, 3,000-mile journey. Started on November
3,000
1st.
miles.
And you mentioned the truck. This is a specifically designed tractor trailer for things like this.
You'd have to be.
And
Look
that's
at
why
this
it
thing.
took like 3 weeks to get there.
Yeah.
It had to
That's
stop
a long
at-
drive.
Yeah. And it did stop also at like parades and other festivals and stuff on the way to
It's
be
a
like,
celebrity
"Guys, look."
on the parade route.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Stopped in Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Kentucky. And it will be lit, of course, on the West Front lawn. They have not announced when exactly yet, but we know it will be through early January of next year. I hope they do it soon because I want to see it.
I want to see it.
I can imagine it takes a while to get that all
The
lit up, too.
decorations and stuff like that. You know, I do my tree in an afternoon. That's a couple afternoons worth
At
of
least.
tree. You know what I'm saying?
At least two.
At least two.
At least two. But they've been doing this for a really long time, of course. I think the first one was placed in 1964, and they've been
Wow.
doing it from the national park since 1970. So this is a long-running tradition. Hard to beat Silver Bell, though. She's
We're looking
pretty
at a
good.
celebrity, folks. This is a celeb.
Do you remember that time? Of course, they do all sorts of famous Christmas tree lightings.
Yeah.
The Rockefeller tree.
Yes.
I think it was during COVID, maybe, when they unfurled it. You see how it's all tied up, and then
Yeah.
it just fell apart.
Yes. Yes.
That was such a representation of 2020.
Of 2020.
Yeah.
Yes.
So hopefully Silver Bell has an easier
She
time.
looks pretty intact.
I believe in her.
We believe in you. I'm excited to see it all lit up.
I am too. Some good things. Sticking with the U.S. Capitol, though, we are going to get back inside the building to the House, where all those representatives are discussing a myriad of topics, really, not just things that are happening today, but we're looking ahead towards January when we're going to have to rediscuss federal spending. So lots to pay attention to here.
His worship and admiration of Stalinist dictator Kim Jong-un of North Korea. Quote, "We have a unique relationship and a very special friendship." Former KGB officer Vladimir Putin, who said that the collapse of the Soviet Union was the greatest catastrophe of the 20th century. Of him, Trump says, Putin, very smart. Will he become my new best friend? And what about the chief of the Chinese Communist Party, President Xi? Trump describes him as a brilliant man. He's got the look, the brain, the whole thing. President Trump has no problems with the actual horrors of communism today, like the Chinese government's massive human rights violations against the Uyghurs, the Tibetans, and political dissenters in their country. Quote, well, he's a brilliant guy. He controls 1.4 billion people with an iron fist. Or how about Vladimir Putin's persecution and poisoning of human rights and anti-corruption activists like Alexei Navalny? Of him, Trump says, I don't know exactly what happened there. We haven't had any proof yet, but I'll take a look. I'm voting no on this pathetic, disoriented resolution, which is divorced from reality and drenched
Sorry
in
to this
right-wing
representative.
ideology.
Breaking news. There is a press conference about Silver Bell the tree and and some very serious glasses and a very serious tie for a very serious matter. Let's take a listen in.
An arboretum here at the United States Capitol and the architect of the Capitol. So I am honored to accept the 2025 Capitol Christmas tree. This year, we are honored to host this red fir that made its way all the way from the Humboldt-Taiobi National Forest in the great state of Nevada. The Humboldt-Taiobi is the largest national forest in the lower 48. For more than half a century, the Forest Service has been an incredible partner in making sure we have the perfect selection for the people's tree. And we're proud to have this Nevadan tree this year for the very first time. I want to thank the United States Forest Service, and especially all the folks that are here from the Carson Ranger District. Let's hear it, Carson. There you are. So thank you, Carson District, for finding us and providing the beautiful 53-foot red fir fondly nicknamed Silver Bell. And Silver Bell is going to be the perfect tree to grace the United States Capitol. After being harvested on October 24th, way back on October 24th, this tree started to make its trip all the way across country, making lots of stops at communities along the way. But one of the very special things as that truck and the tree make its trip across the country is that everybody gets to see the thousands of handmade ornaments and things that will adorn that tree. And all of that really helps to provide the holiday spirit here in Washington, D.C. Today, after we set the tree in the west lawn of the Capitol, our Capitol grounds in Arboretum T, we'll start to decorate the tree with thousands of LED lights and all of those ornaments that have been handcrafted. And it will bring that whole community spirit from the local folks at the Humboldt-Tiobi all the way to Washington, D.C. And we are very, very grateful for all the work that has gone in here and all the work and dedication that will make this tree a successful tree for the United States Capitol and the people's tree. Thank you very much. And I am now going to turn it over to Mr. John Stansfield, Supervisor of the Humboldt-Tiobi. John?
All right, thank you, Jim. It's a pleasure. Good morning, everyone. My name is John Stansfield. I'm a proud United States Forest Service employee and the Forest Supervisor of the Humboldt-Tiobi National Forest. My standing here with you today marks the delivery of the people's tree to our nation's capital. Silver Bell is Nevada's gift to the nation. Silver Bell's tale would not have been told, and her journey across the country would not have been possible without support from partners like Society of American Foresters, Sierra Forever, our many sponsors, and of course, the extraordinary employees of the Humboldt-Tiobi. On behalf of the employees of the Humboldt-Tiobi National Forest, we hope Silver Bell stands as a symbol of unity, joy, and the gift that is America's public lands. Thanks.
Thank you, John. So we'll like to just open it up for a few questions, if anybody has any questions about the 2025 Capitol Christmas tree before we get ourselves underway here.
How tall is it?
We have a 53-foot red fir from the Carson Ranger District.
Why do they call it a red fir?
Red fir, so there's two predominant species, a good question, thank you. Two predominant species in the Humboldt-Tiobi, white fir and red fir. And red fir was the dominant species in the area that we were able to look around and find the perfect tree.
Why does it have the nickname Silver Bell?
We chose the name Silver Bell because we thought that it embodied the spirit of the Silver State, and she was so pretty.
How much does it weigh?
I'm looking over my forester, but I think it's about 4,500 pounds.
Plus tons. Is the species endangered?
No.
Okay. Well, thank you all so much. We appreciate your time. We appreciate everybody coming out on this beautiful day. And the great team at Architect of the Capitol and Capitol Grounds and Arboretum are going to start lifting this tree and getting it all set for everyone to see. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, don't you worry. We are going to get back to the tree, but it's going to take him a second. She's 53 feet tall. So we're going to take a quick break, and hopefully when we come back, they'll be lifting the tree. Stick with us. All right, welcome back. It is 10:14 here in the Live Impact Center, and we're getting back out to this live picture from D.C. right outside the Capitol, where workers are right now unfurling the tree that will go right in front on the front west lawn.
That man is shoulder deep into tree. That's so much sap.
It's eating him. He's gone.
Oh,
someone
God
help
bless
him.
you. Imagine like all the sap in your hair and getting that out. Oh, that's why you have hard hats. That's why we have hard hats.
This
people.
is a hat job. So this is going to take a while.
But we're going to keep it on the screen.
We're going to keep it on the screen. We're going to go back to the House floor, but we're going to put this in a box so that you can see this as it happens. Oh gosh, they're talking about socialism on the House floor, and so we're going to have two very different things happening on your screen.
That's why you tune in to Live Impact News. Variety. We give you variety.
There's going to be something for everyone.
That's right.
A little bit of everything. But Silver Bell, we will come back to her because I am personally invested. Yes. So here's the House floor, but know that we're going to get this up in a second.
The economy, they soon seek to own the people. I hope people who are watching right now on C-SPAN or on the news get what's going on in this body today. This side is against socialism. That side is for socialism. I am disgusted with what's going on in this body. And I hope the American people see through the charade,
Gentleman's time's
the
expired.
gaslighting, and the lies that are being told. And with that, I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from Arkansas.
A reserve.
Reserves. The gentlelady from California is recognized.
the
And
balance
just a
of my
reminder
time.
that she has 1 minute remaining. Gentleman from Arkansas is recognized.
How much time remains, Mr. Speaker?
One from Arkansas has 5 1/4 minutes remaining.
I thank that, Mr. Speaker. I want to again call on my friend from South Florida. But before I do that, Mr. Speaker, the House is not in order.
The House is not in order. May I remind members to please take their conversations off the floor of the House. You have the misfortune of having a speaker who is half deaf, so Gentleman from Arkansas is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ms. Salazar of South Florida, a child of Cuban exiles from the Castro takeover of Cuba. I yield her 3 minutes.
Florida is recognized for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If there is someone who has seen the horrors of socialism up close within the Democratic Party, is in the House, and it's the Honorable Congresswoman Maxine Waters. And I would love for you to support this resolution specifically, because, Madam Waters, for decades you traveled to Cuba dozens of times to visit Fidel Castro personally, whom you consider your friend. Congresswoman Waters was in Havana, and she saw the destruction of biblical proportions that Castro caused on that island, who at the time in 1960 had the highest per capita income in the Western Hemisphere. At that time, Madam Waters knew that thousands and thousands of Cubans were escaping on a raft, exposing their lives and their children to be eaten by the sharks. She knew that Afro-Cubans were being beaten on the streets of Havana, discriminated against by Fidel Castro, Mr. Speaker. And for that reason, I am bringing up all these facts, because Madam Waters knew that the Cuban jails were full of political prisoners, and the Cubans did not have the same privileges that we are having right now to speak freely. At that time, Madam Waters never raised her voice to denounce the horrors of socialism, Mr. Speaker. For that reason, I am asking Madam Waters.
For what purpose the lady from California seeks recognition?
I move to take her words down.
Order. The House will be in order. The lady from California, for what purpose do you rise?
I rise to take down her words.
Personal attack.
Lady from Florida, please be seated. I'd ask the clerk to please report the words.
All right, they're dealing with a bit of a matter. They're trying to get some words removed from the record. There's a back and forth going on, so we're going to take a quick break. While they figure that out, we'll be back in 2 minutes. Welcome back, 1023 here. We are still watching, of course, multiple things going on. First of all, the Capitol tree. They are still working to kind of untie it from this specialty truck that's carrying this 53-foot tree. Her name is Silver Bell, of course, if you missed it earlier. But they are, it looks like, connecting it to this giant crane.
We could be minutes away from liftoff, people.
Liftoff, T-minus question mark.
T-minus question mark.
Who's to say?
Julie and I are big fans.
We might come back here multiple times throughout the day, so buckle up, everybody. But we are going to also monitor the House. They are kind of dealing with some internal stuff right now, a discussion about whether to remove some words from the record. So that's kind of putting us in limbo here in that realm. So lots going on at the Capitol, but for now, while we wait for both those things to get settled and for liftoff, we're going to head back to that interview that Eugene got with Chief Johnny Jennings, CMPD chief, in his last couple weeks on the job here.
Had to look at when we lose an officer or when you have a critical incident at all. You go back and you debrief and you say, what can we do better? Where could we have possibly had the outcome of this change? And that's how you continue to improve as an agency. And that's not just in the police world. I think that's in everyday world. When you have things that don't go your way, always need to look back and say, what could we have done better?
So what are some of the misconceptions that people don't know about you? As they just see you as a chief and they see maybe that you come up behind the scene or you got your police officers, but they don't know what you do. What are some of the misconceptions and what would you like them to know about you?
Wow, people kind of forget that you are human, right? And so being the police chief is not who I am. Being a police chief is what I do. And so there are things outside of policing that.
Okay, actually, we're going to take a quick pause from that because we just got a new feed in, and we will come back to that, I promise. But this is from Vatican TV. The Pope is about to speak at a National Catholic Youth Conference. So we're going to listen in, of course, an American Pope, but also a rare time to hear from him live.
Just, so we're in solidarity. We are thrilled to have you joining us. There's 16,000 young people with burning questions and a lot of hope for this moment. Selfishly, I'd love to know your opening word for Wordle, but we'll talk about it later. The questions they have range across the spectrum. We want to know about prayer, and we want to talk about technology. And you mentioned a moment ago how this conference, which changed my life as a teenager and is changing their lives right now, this conference provides opportunities for prayer and for confession, to go to Mass, to be at Mass with so many bishops. So we have a starting question. Mia, how about you ask the Holy Father a question about the sacraments?
Thank you, Katie. Good morning, Holy Father. My name is Mia Smothers from the Archdiocese of Baltimore, Maryland. In my experience, it's been difficult to voice my mistakes. Is it hard for you to accept God's mercy when you make mistakes or feel like you've let people down?
Thank you for your question, Mia. Before I answer it, I just want to say I only wear white socks and I use a different word for Wordle every day. So there's no set starting word, in case you're wondering. Yeah. No, seriously, Mia, I want to thank you for your question. It's an important one because all of us struggle with this at times. The truth is that none of us is perfect. St. Paul teaches that everyone has sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. He tells us that in his letter to the Romans. Because of original sin, we sometimes do the opposite of what we know is right. But there's good news. Sin never has the final word. Whenever we ask for God's mercy, he forgives us. Pope Francis said that God never gets tired of forgiving. We sometimes get tired of asking for forgiveness. So even when we fall again, we should remember St. Paul's words. Christ Jesus came into the world to save sinners. He came for us, knowing our weaknesses. Jesus told many stories about God's joy when someone returns to him. For example, we all know the story of the prodigal son, that son who made terrible choices. And yet, when he came home, his father ran to embrace him. Jesus also called himself the Good Shepherd who searches for the lost sheep. Even on the cross, he forgave the good thief and prayed for those who crucified him. We may struggle to forgive, but God's heart is different. God never stops inviting us back. We experience this mercy of God in a special way in the sacrament of reconciliation. In confession, Jesus meets us through the priest. When we honestly confess our sins and accept our penance, the priest gives absolution, and we know with certainty that we are forgiven. So yes, it can be discouraging when we fall, but do not focus only on your sins. Look to Jesus, trust his mercy, and go to him with confidence. He will always welcome you home.
Thank you so much, Holy Father.
Holy Father, that's powerful advice and I think a remarkable encouragement for young people to go back to Jesus. But they struggle at times, and this world can present a lot of hardships. Mental health is certainly something that we heard from a lot of young people as we prepared for this conversation. And whether a young person is dealing with a diagnosis personally or has somebody that they love that is struggling with depression or anxiety or ADHD, it's a weight. It's a weight to communicate it. It's a weight to ask for help. I see you nodding, so I know we're excited to continue the conversation. Ezekiel, we were chatting about this. Why don't you ask the Holy Father?
Good morning, Holy Father. My name is Ezekiel Ponce, and I live in the Archdiocese of Los Angeles, California. Growing up in public school, I got to see my peers and even myself struggle with our faith. My question is, there are moments in which a lot of us feel sad or overwhelmed, and even if we pray or try to have faith. Friends and family often say, just give my problems to the Lord. But how can I really give my problems to God and feel that he is close to me, even if I feel like this?
Thank you for your question, Ezekiel. In his first letter, St. Peter tells us to give all our worries to Jesus because he cares for us. Jesus does not just understand our struggles from a distance. He actually wants us to hand them to him because he loves us. And that kind of trust starts when we have a real relationship. We cannot give our problems to someone who we barely know. Think of your closest friends, for example. If they were hurting, you would talk to them. You would listen to them. You would stay close. Our relationship with Jesus is similar. He knows when life feels heavy. And Scripture reminds us that he is near to the brokenhearted. Even when we do not feel his presence, our faith tells us that he is there. To entrust our struggles to Jesus, we have to spend time with him in prayer. We have to have a relationship with him. In quiet, we can speak honestly about what is in our hearts. During Eucharistic adoration, you can look at Jesus in the Blessed Sacrament, and you know that he looks at you, and he looks at you with love. He often speaks to us gently, in stillness. That is why daily moments of silence are so important, whether through adoration, reading Scripture, talking to him, looking for those little spaces of time where we can be with him. Little by little, we learn to hear his voice, to feel his presence, both within and through the people that he sends to us. Giving our problems to Jesus is something we can do we need to do again and again. Each morning, we can invite him to be with us during the day. Each night, we can talk with him about our day. And remember also Mary, the mother of Jesus, and our mother. She understands what we go through, and she prays for us. There's a powerful way to ask for her help, and that's praying the rosary. Through her intercession, and with all the saints praying for us, we can confidently place everything in God's hands, knowing that he always hears us. He's always with us.
Ezekiel, we were chatting earlier, and you said you wanted to talk a little more about how that communication, right? Listening to the Lord, but also communicating with each other, listening from experts. So why don't you keep it going?
Thanks, Katie. And I just want to acknowledge something that you said about building a relationship with the Lord, and by doing that, by morning prayer or even praying the rosary. So my next question to you is, it's easy at times to feel lost, but I'm afraid to talk about it because I don't think others will really understand how I feel. What can we, the youth, adopt to communicate better with others and help them understand us?
In the time that I've spent with young people, which through the years has been rather significant, I've seen that you really carry with you authentic joys and hopes, but also struggles and heavy burdens. I saw that clearly during the Jubilee of Youth. And I want you to know that I pray for you, asking the Lord to help you grow in love for him and in virtue. I know that the Lord is working in your hearts, but I also believe he draws you closer to himself through the people in your life, hopefully through your parents, teachers, priests, brothers and sisters, good friends, youth ministers. When you find someone you truly trust, don't be afraid to open your heart. It's so important to have authentic trust, but when you do, know that they can help you understand what you're feeling, and they can support you along the way. It's also important to pray for the gift of true friends. A real friend is not only someone who's fun to be with, though that is good too, but it's someone who helps you grow closer to Jesus, someone who encourages you to become a better person. Good friends also push us to seek help when life gets difficult or confusing. Good friends will always tell us the truth, even when that's not easy to do. Scripture says that faithful friends are like a strong shelter and a treasure. I hope you are forming friendships like that, even during this conference. Friendships rooted in faith, rooted in love for Jesus. Whether it is a trusted adult or close friend, it's important to speak honestly about what you feel, what you think, what you experience. Honesty will help you put your feelings into words. And honesty will allow Jesus to work through the people that he has placed in your life. At the same time, remember that the Lord invites us to grow through our challenges. Many young people say, "No one understands me," but that thought sometimes can isolate you. When it comes, try saying, "Oh Lord, you understand me better than I understand myself," and trust that the Lord will guide you.
Thank you.
Holy Father, I'm not going to totally throw out the script, but I want to ask you a question. You mentioned...
All right, that is happening live at a Catholic Youth Conference where they're getting chances to ask questions directly to Pope Leo at the Vatican. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Welcome back to Live Impact News 1040 here, and we want to get out to some news out of Akron, Ohio. Of course, the Airbnb shooting made headlines just for not just the fact that it was an Airbnb and a birthday party, but how young the teenagers were involved in this, and officials are giving an update now.
Of homicide diminishes after the first 2 days or so, and while that's partially true, the first few hours of a homicide investigation are in fact crucial, which is why we lean heavily on BCI's crime scene unit to expertly gather information and process scenes. The fruits of today's announcement are the product of 3 investments in law enforcement long before this incident occurred. In early 2022, I directed BCI to expand its NIBIN capabilities to provide almost instantaneous ballistic evidence comparison for every law enforcement agency in Ohio. NIBIN is the National Integrated Ballistic Information Network, a database of firearms casings that allows investigators to compare cartridges from one scene to another. I directed BCI not only to invest in the technology, but the people that would run the machines and do the analysis to forge new connections with the federal government that hosts the database. Our experts who worked this case quickly input the ballistic evidence in this case into NIBIN, and using their expertise quickly made correlations on other known shootings. I want to emphasize that it was those experts at BCI doing the work locally, not backlogged through the National Correlation Center, but making correlations right here in Ohio that gave immediate leads to the investigators to pursue. Just 3 years ago, this process would have been slow, clunky, awkward. Now it's a standard practice and is incredibly fast. The second area was DNA. After we began the NIBIN initiative, it became evident that we needed to increase the laboratory's capacity to process DNA from firearms, particularly from cartridge casings, which is a special thing. It's difficult to do. They're small. They're not flat surfaces. And the process up till that point was a little bit fickle. We invested a lot of time and effort in enhancing our capacity to use DNA, touch DNA analysis from cartridges, not only because of the large number of firearms thefts and offenses, but also my confidence in BCI's laboratory drove me to that decision. And the DNA analysis of cartridges is now almost routine. Our folks at BCI have gotten really good at it. The last thing that we did was corrected a little bit of a challenge that we had. Starting in 2020, we began to be asked more and more frequently to do officer-involved uses of lethal force to provide a thorough, independent, professional investigation. We gladly stepped up to provide that assistance so that local communities could be convinced that this wasn't a DIY kind of investigation of the local police investigating the local police, but that it was independently and fairly done. The challenge, though, was the increase in workload meant that we weren't responding as quickly to cases like this. Under the leadership of Mark Haller, who's here, and Superintendent Bruce Pijanowski, we reorganized BCI and created a separate force investigation unit to handle those officer-involved incidents and reinvigorate special investigations to do what they do best, which is cases just like this one. And that reinvigorated unit, I think, was key to the results here. BCI is stronger than ever. It's what I call a force multiplier for local law enforcement. We are always available to come in, not to take over. The TV stuff where you see the federal government come in and, fight with the locals about who's got jurisdiction. It doesn't occur in Ohio. We are secondary to local law enforcement. We follow the chief's lead. We follow the local prosecutor's lead. We are a force multiplier for the people that are on the ground, elected by their local communities to do this work, and we're glad to do that. I want to thank our partners in this investigation, obviously Bath Township, Akron Police, ATF, the U.S. Marshals, several others that the chief mentioned. This combined effort has been tireless and is remarkable for the quick break in this. Bottom line is this: if you're going to commit a crime, don't come here. We will do the work, we will find you, and you will be held accountable. That accountability is now up to the court system. We have a very able prosecutor here in Summit County, and I've been proud to work with he and his staff. And I would like to now invite Elliot Kolkovich to come and talk about next steps and what this case will look like.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your work,
sir. Of course, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I am Elliot Kolkovich, your Summit County prosecutor. I want to thank you all for being here today, and of course offer our condolences to Ms. Wells in the loss of her son, Elijah. I also want to thank the Chief Sinopoli. We are here because of Chief Sinopoli's foresight to engage every resource at his disposal. And I want to echo the Attorney General and all the agencies he thanked in his speech, and again thank Chief Sinopoli for all of his work in engaging those resources. Regarding the timeline, all of those charges have been filed locally. At this point, our prosecutors are working with the agencies to gather all of the evidence and reports, with an eye towards presenting these cases to a grand jury shortly after Thanksgiving. Regarding the juvenile, that case will go through the process, potentially being bound over to adult court, maybe the end of the year or early in the new year. Again, I would like to thank all of the agencies that the Attorney General mentioned in his remarks for their quick work in this. As Chief Sinopoli said, we are about 3 weeks out, and that is excellent work done by all law enforcement in this matter. Thank you. Chief.
And Mr. Smerglio, would you like to make a few remarks? Sure.
Good morning. Just first and foremost, on behalf of ATF, we'd just like to give our condolences to Mrs. Wells and family. This is what law enforcement is about: partnerships. This is part and parcel as to why we built the new Akron CJIC here in Northern Ohio, to be a part of these types of investigations, to help our local partners, to help our state partners, and other federal partners. So at this time, I'd just like to thank you for the partnership. Glad we could be a part with both of you. Appreciate our investigators and their rapid response, and look forward to attacking violence, continuing to attack violence here in Northern Ohio. As the Attorney General said, and I think we've said this before in other press conferences here, violent crime is not welcome here in Northern Ohio. If you're going to pick up a gun and be a shooter, expect to deal with us. Thank you.
Ms. Murphy with the U.S. Marshals.
Well, good, thank you. I think you covered
Very good.
everything. Thank you very much.
Captain Loffner, do you have any words? Very good. Mr. Collar? I'd also like to recognize another one of our elected officials, Trustee Elena Goodrich, who came in, and I would like to see if any of our trustees would like to make any statements. Okay. Ms. Goodrich. Mr. Sean Gaffney.
First of all, sympathy to all the victim families and everyone affected by this. As Chief Sinopoli stated, I am Bath Township Trustee Sean Gaffney, and I want to thank all our first responders, including Bath Police, Bath Fire, Bath Dispatch, mutual aid partners, and all other responding agencies. These men and women dedicate their service to helping and protecting residents. Their training proved invaluable both in safety and in saving lives. And the response was professional.
All right, you've been listening in to a live press conference with officials in Ohio, walking us through the latest in the investigation of that shooting at an Airbnb in Akron. More to come on that later. We want to take a quick break, though. We'll be back in 2 minutes. All right, welcome back to Live Impact News. 10:53, so we just got a few minutes left here in the Live Impact studio before we head to our next newscast. But we're going to head back out to Pope Leo. He is still speaking live with teenagers answering their questions at a Catholic youth conference.
Standing. Deepen your prayer life as well. Spend time praying before the Eucharist and Eucharistic adoration. Go to confession regularly. Other practices of prayer and reflection and reading God's Word. These practices help hear God's voice more clearly. If you feel the Lord may be calling you to something specific, to some vocation, talk to your parish priest, talk to another trusted leader. They can help you discern what God is asking. Remember, making a difference usually happens through simple daily faithfulness. In this regard, I want to mention Saint Pier Giorgio Frassati. As a young man, Pier Giorgio joined Catholic groups. He lived his faith with joy. He prayed devoutly and very quietly, but with great determination, he cared for the poor. When he died at just 24 years of age, thousands of people, many of them poor, came to honor him for his goodness. He gives us a marvelous example of what holiness looks like in everyday life. So I invite you to reflect on these questions. What can I offer the church for the future? How can I help others come to know Christ? How can I build peace and friendship around me? These questions are for today, and I believe your yes will strengthen the church now and in the years to come.
Thank you so much for your wisdom and insight. I know that we all really appreciate it.
Holy Father, I want to repeat those 3 questions you just challenged us to pray through. What can I offer the church right now? How can I help others know Christ? And how can I build peace in the world? And all of this conversation, and we're so grateful you've taken the time to join us. We didn't develop any of this in a vacuum or in secret. It wasn't just a room full of people putting words in anybody's mouth. There's actually 40 young people. They're sitting right next to the stage that we're on. We just want to acknowledge, if y'all would stand up if you were part of some of these Zoom calls that we had in anticipation of this. These young people helped us pray, helped us discuss. I want them to get their moment. We're grateful for your help. And there's 16,000 people in a football stadium that we've transformed into a sanctuary, and I'm sure they'd all love to raise their hand and ask a question. So we want to share that the National Federation of Catholic Youth Ministry wants this conversation to continue. We'll call and set it up. But we have a box over in our exhibit hall, and young people are going to be invited to go write questions down, put them in the box. We'll send them over with our nuncio, and we'd love to continue the dialogue, if you're open to it, of course. But I think we could continue it. But I do have one last question, Holy Father, and we'd be remiss if we didn't end, I think, on the hopeful note of this Jubilee Year of Hope. Pope Francis opened our Jubilee of Hope on Christmas Eve, and you will close it on the Epiphany. And I don't think any of us anticipated how this year was going to unfold and the hope that would be rejuvenated in our heart when so much happened and you were given to us. So we just want to ask, what's bringing you hope right now? And what's your hope for the future of this church? And how can we help you?
Well, thank you very much. It's a really good question. I think it's important to repeat that young people are part of the church's present and also the hope for the future of the church. We look to you, I look to you, not to someone else, to help shape the church in the years ahead. And that is something to be excited about. Maybe you should all give yourselves a round of applause, because I want to say thanks to all of you.
All right, that was Pope Leo speaking live to American high school students that are getting a chance to ask him questions at this Catholic Youth Conference. But the big breaking news of the day, Carlene, we have another shot of the tree.
They're trimming the stump.
They're trimming the stump.
Look, well, at least that's what I saw. I saw a chainsaw.
Oof. There's a lot of work going into this tree.
She's here.
Silver Bell has arrived on the Capitol lawn. She has since moved. They have, oversized load in case you weren't sure.
Yeah, no, it's definitely oversized load.
Seems pretty self-explanatory. But it has moved from the road to the front lawn.
Yep.
With its little plank bridge that they had them drive out on. It has not gone vertical yet.
No, we're anxiously awaiting for it to go vertical. You know what I mean?
Imagine the skill set you need to have this kind of job.
I know.
Power to him.
I'm so excited.
We are going to be back here at 12:30.
We'll give an update on the tree.
Hopefully the tree will be up.
Tree Watch 2025.
We are on Tree Watch. My money is on it will be up by that point, but you never know.
So many lights that have to go on this thing.